Hey everyone, welcome back to another exciting episode of Attack Productions. Today I'm back up joined again by Jimmy.
Yes, sir.
And today he has Broly extra card, mainly because our deck's like 95% similar, but he has a card I don't have, and I thought his list would be better because of it. Buttons, stuff, links, let's do this.
All right, so first off, shout out to TCG Metals. This is Bancroft's leader, but he was gracious enough to let me use it for the profile because it is a fantastic artwork. Always great stuff from TCG Metals. And we also got the Acrylic Boy, which we'll get into momentarily. X-Card Broly, your hand is just under your leader. You'll have like a 2-card hand, but you'll have 14 cards in your hand because they're all under your leader. Activate main, put shit under your leader, awaken when you have shit under your leader, blah, blah, blah. You can read it on the TCG player. Backside, you do get your draws on your backside. It is important to remember your draws. You can do some moderate hand destruction with the activate main, and then also you have the ability to pitch extra cards from under your leader to give boost. So you're not just dead in the water if your opponent is swinging at you with a lot of battle cards. You can just keep buffing up your leader. We'll go directly into the Z deck. Shout out to the acrylic leader, which looks absolutely amazing when overlaid. I love the idea of the acrylic. It looks super dope. But this is your Z leader. You don't want to jump the gun on this because you do lose out on draws on this side. Of course, you do get extra cards, but you don't always want to be putting or getting extra cards into your hand. You still want your battle cards. But you can cheat out your Broly's for 1 energy, which is crazy, and still has the same activate battle as the front side. And this is a Z Awaken for 1 energy at 4 life, so I do love that. I hate the leaders that only awaken at 3. For other Z deck cards, we have 2 of the Friezas, KO potential, a little bit of hand destruction, 15k double striker, 2 energy, 1 Z battle. Really solid card. No reason not to run it. 2 of the Limos, these are, and then 2 of the Chilais, these are just kind of like consistency boosters, which you don't really need them. They're not super necessary. The Limo is nice because he will basically cheat out your extra cards for free in most cases, but most of the time you're going to have the energy to spend on it, so he's not super relevant. Except for the Z deck, we'll get into the main deck. We'll go over the extra cards first. We have the True Power Awaken. The activate main, the first one, is absolutely crazy in a lot of matchups. Some matchups it is just completely null and void. But it just taxes your opponent on activate main skills, which, I mean, you can just think about your favorite deck and how many activate main skills are in it. This card will absolutely decimate it. It does give your opponent the option to discard 2, which is also good for 1 energy. But if your opponent does not have or feel like they'll lose the game if they have to discard and they put themselves under this tax, you can pretty much just win the game off of that. And then also has the activate main of being able to warp this, draw a card, and put a extra card under your leader, which is super nice, and that's why it's at a 4 of. 4 of the Out of Control Power. I thought this card was a lot better when I was reading it, and in practice it's just really just fodder to be put under the leader. You might be able to round out numbers in other places in the deck, but it is a field wipe. You can save your big Broly by pitching 5 cards, but most of the time this is just kind of like a threat to your opponent, and kind of your opponent gets to see the cards under your leader. So if you have this and your opponent is scared to go to 3 battle cards, you can kind of put this to the top of your leader stack and just remind your opponent that it exists. But most of the time you don't want to be playing this card. 3 Cunning Murders. Target Paragus, pop it, get more cards. This is great turn 1 if you see your Paragus. It's okay late game too, but most of the time, by that time, you're going to see all the extra cards that you need, and your deck is going to be super duper thin, so you don't want to be really activating this late game. Chilai's Aid, free Senzu Bean. You have to be at 4 or less life, which kind of sucks, but whatever. It is to note that the True Power Awaken, you do have to be a Z leader for its first effect, so that does suck, but it would be kind of too crazy if you're able just to activate this at any time. 4 Training with Ba, just a negate, and you get to charge this to your Z energy, which is super nice. So you're not completely locked out of playing Z battle cards because you do have ways to charge Z energy. I absolutely hate this card. I hate cards like this. I hate this design of cards. of locking your opponent out of attacking. I prefer the tack style floodgates, even playing them like Topo and like the Bupo. Like, I much prefer those instead of these. Your opponent can't do something. I hate this type of design, but it's necessary. You can have them, you can run them, and the card is crazy. It's a side grade to Nimbus. You can activate this for free by pitching 2 cards from under your Broly. It negates the attack, and then your opponent can only attack 2 more times, where Nimbus does not negate the attack, but your opponent only attack 1 more time. So you can run Nimbus alongside this card. And in certain matchups, if your opponent is expecting this, they're going to swing with just a little weenie to try to bait this out. Dormant. What am I saying?
You said Nimbus.
Nimbus. It's the same fucking card. Yeah, Dormant. Nimbus is another card that just says your opponent can't, which I don't like either. But the card is not as good as it used to be. Yeah, Dormant potential. You can run Dormant alongside this card and kind of bait your opponent into like guessing, do they have Dormant or are they going to activate the Wishing the Battle? Because if they swing with a little weenie and you waste a negate on a weenie, then they're just going to swing with their actual threat, where Nimbus, the strategy against that is to swing with your actual threat because it's not going to get negated. So you can run that, but I don't run it in this particular list because just really not much room. 2 homicidal clones, token negates, they're always good. Nothing bad to say about them. That's all for the extra cards. It is to note that you cannot activate homicidal clones under your Broly leader. You can only activate all these other cards, which is completely fine. But that is something to be aware of, but it's still too good to not run. For our battle cards, run our little pressure Broly. You don't get to really maintain a board state with this guy because he does kill himself at the end of the turn. But 1 energy, you get a little bit of value off of him. Pretty solid. 3 of the Villainous. It's a dual attacker. You do get the auto on both swings, which is fantastic. Good removal. Just good card all around. Super combos. For our Paragus 1-drop package, we do run the one for the set. He's just solid searcher, and he can protect himself by warping out and then replaying. So it does open up multiple counter windows, but if your opponent wants to play a counter on a 1-drop, let them. Who cares? This is your target for Cunning. So you can play this on turn 1. If you don't have the Cunning Murder, you can just keep warping him and keep protecting him and let your opponent, or not let your opponent pop him before you can use your Cunning effect. Now run 2 of the OGs. Just search out a Broly, and then if it's pop, you get to restand energy. This guy isn't as important as the other ones, so that's why he's only a 2 of. But there are some situations where you might be a little stretched for getting your Brolys into hand. For our main boss monster package, run 3 from the set. Triple Striker, you get to pull cards from under your leader to this dude, and then you can put cards back under your leader to protect him. So he does have some built-in protection, even though he doesn't have barrier or deflect. You're going to be mainly playing this dude off of your leader effect and not so much his own effect, but you can. If you have 10 or more extra cards, you can pay 2 for him. I prefer just playing them off of the leader. This dude, you do have to play off of the leader. This card is absolutely crazy if it sticks around and gets some value. Your opponent cannot activate counters when it costs 2 or more, so that just locks out token negates. They can still activate every other lower counter. But token negates are super popular, so being able to have a card that just says you can't do that is super strong. And then activate battle, you can just pitch a card from your hand and then blow up something ignoring barrier.
Which I kept on forgetting about in our match.
Everybody forgets about this. And if this card just sits around on field...
I play that card.
Yeah. If this card just sits around on field, if your opponent just for 1 second falls asleep, then you're just going to punish them for doing that. Like, this card is a card you have to respect when it's on field. It does not have barrier or deflect. But... like I said, if it sticks around, you're gonna get punished. One card that Bancroft wanted to do my profile for is the Golden Frieza. I only ran this at 1 because I couldn't find my other copy, and my winter copy is in a different deck. But I'm definitely going to go up on this. If I continue to play extra card Broly, this card is definitely going to go up. If you have an 8 cost, which you most likely will, because you can play an 8 cost for 1 on your Z leader, You can play this for one counterplay. It's a blocker, cannot be KO'd the turn that it's played, and then when it activates blocker, it restands. So if you pair this with, even I was about to say Nimbus again. If you pair this with Dormant Potential or the Wishing for the Battle to end, your opponent's just not getting damage through. If they have another way to remove this card, then you're a little out of luck. But if they're going to spend energy on removing that, you're still winning the value battle both ways. But you negate first with Wishing for the Battle, block, restand, and then block the second attack. And then you still have this body on field for whatever you want to do with it afterwards. Keep it around for another blocker. Of course, it will die on the next block, but who cares? Card is absolutely fantastic and synergizes really well with everything in this list. One Big Broly, just good removal, 30k body, nothing bad to say about it. And then secret rare choice, I run the Boo Nimba card. I mean, counter is just crazy on anything. Every counter this game has ever printed has been really, really strong, and has been relevant. And this one's on a 40k double strike body. Card's fucking crazy. Your opponent's probably not going to expect it. They'll walk into it, and then you win the game because of it, because counter's kind of busted.
There was a moment in our match I was like, are you playing this one or are you playing that one? I just had to wait to find out.
Well, in that match specifically, I think we talked about it in the video a little bit, but my deck was like at 7 cards. Yeah. And I was looking, I was like, well, my secret rare is definitely in my life. And I picked up my 3rd life. I was like, oh, that's my secret rare. I guess I win the game now.
So that being said, thank you for tuning in. Keep mind this button stuff there. Bye.